Okay, is there anybody here for their first, second, or third AA meeting ever? Not to embarrass you, just to get to know you better? Nope. Okay, anybody from out of town? Our speaker is, but I'll get that. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. Okay, so our speaker tonight, his name is Kenny.
Ow!
Yeah, Kenny. And he's actually asked me to introduce him. So I've known Kenny for, what, like 4 years now, I think? 4 or 5, something like that. And whenever I went to Springboard back in 2017, he was there. Now, I don't really remember Springboard, like, that well, because I was not well at the time. And so all I remember was he was there, and we kind of like just meshed. I don't know, like we just kind of stuck together, and then he got out, I got out, and then he actually went back out. And when he went back out, I didn't really know how to feel about it at the time, but then he came back, right? And if you knew him before now, it is a miracle this man is sober today. Because I remember going, and I told him I was going to say this, but I remember going to the motel, over yonder, and if y'all know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And I pretty much kicked in the door to get him to go back to treatment, because that's just how our friendship was, And then he went back out again, and then came back, and it was just this back and forth thing. And he taught me what it means to not chase anybody. And I don't think I've ever told you that, but he taught me what it means to not chase somebody and to let somebody hit their bottom. And he has become one of my greatest friends. And he's actually more of a brother to me than anything. And I made notes, so because then I'll start crying, and then, yeah. He listens to me moan and complain, but pretty much about everything. I call him like at least 4 times a week, and I will bitch and complain. And he always, 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 always directs me to God in the big book. And that's why he is such a great example of what this program can do for somebody, because he never co-signs for me, but he always directs me to what does the big book say, and have you prayed about it today? And I hate that he does that, but it's what I need. And that's why I am so glad to hear his story, even though I've heard it a million times. But Kenny, come up here and tell your story.
I was telling Tanae a while ago, I hate being the center of attention, but I want to be the center of the universe. I get nervous up here. My name's Kenny Mack. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hi, Kenny.
I have a surrender date of October the 28th, 2018, and for that I'm ever in debt and truly grateful. Yeah, I'll be all over it. I'm going to give a disclaimer right off the bat. This is my experience, so everybody's experience is different. This is how I got sober. This is how I stay sober. I try not to war story, because I don't glorify what I do. Drugs were part of my story, but I'll keep it to alcohol. I'll try to. I really won't talk about alcohol and drugs that much. It's more about the internal condition. If you're a little alcoholic, I think you can relate. It talks about on page 17. And I'll probably be all over the place. I don't bring notes up here. And my sponsor says, got everything or else he's nothing. So I want to bring notes up here so I don't get sidetracked. And I have ADHD, so bear with me. I grew up in Odessa. Had some alcoholics in the family. My mom's side, her dad was an alcoholic. Her brother's got he's going on 22 years sober in this program. It's truly a miracle to see that guy. So he's my biggest critic, but he's also one of my biggest supporters now that I finally actually starting to do this deal. My dad, he's one of us. He doesn't admit to it, but he is. And I'm not here to take his inventory or anything like that. That's the way it is. I have a sister that's one of us, and she's tried this and tried everything else, and I don't know where she's at or what she's doing, but hopefully, I'll pray for her every night. Another sister, what's funny, she's married to a preacher, so I guess it skipped her. So she has that middle child syndrome though, so I'll give her that much. And she's a redhead, so. Well, growing up in Odessa, and I don't argue disease or whatever. Do I think it's a disease? Yeah, but I'm not up here to argue that. I'll argue solution all day. That's a power greater than yourself. It's only going to solve your drink problem. Tells me that on page 45, and that's true today. But I always had this, growing up, me and my buddy had this running joke. We both went to Permian and we say, if you want your kids to walk into these rooms as they get older, send them permanent hospital. They'll surely be here for sure. I kind of wore these masks as a kid. I just had this impending fear, and I wanted everybody to like me, because I figured if you liked me, we'd be okay. You know, it'd take the radar off me, it'd take the heat off me or whatever. And that fear made me wear, you know, everybody got a different person at Kenny. My dad got somebody different than my mom got, then my friends got somebody different than maybe the church members got, and all this different stuff. So fear, I really think when we talk about, you know, my buddy Tanner talks about causes and conditions. We gotta get down to causes and conditions. But it's true. If drugs and alcohol was my problem, as soon as I get out of detox, I should be fine, right? I should be cured. Drugs and alcohol are not my problem. It talks about the devilness. I'm 52, I'm full of fear. I'm a feeling of uselessness, you know. All those things that the devilness talks about here, I'll touch on it right here. It talks about that's the unmanageability of my life, right? When I ask you, we're having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional nature. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness, and we were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be a real help to other people. Was that not a basic solution of these bedevilments? More important, whether we should see newsreels of lunar flight? I mean, growing up, I think I had what the book talks about, alcoholism. And I guess I needed a shot of vodka at 8 years old, I don't know, but so I would, you know, find these coping mechanisms, like, you know, wearing, you know, putting on a mask or what have you, to deal with it. And the best coping mechanism at 12 years old was my first drink. It was. It just made me feel, I can be myself, right? I don't have to wear all these masks. Alcohol was the best mask there was. And it gives you, I was telling, me and Cole were talking about this the other day, a low-grade spiritual experience. That's what it does for me. I mean, it did something for me nothing else could do. Not a woman, I didn't want to do the God thing. I grew up in this Lutheran household. We're going to Lutheran church. It's that fire and brimstone is all I took. I always took the negative out of every situation. If my mom was preaching, because my mom's, I mean, she loves her some Jesus, and I'm thankful for that. Her unwavering faith in God is what has helped my relationship with God today. But I just didn't want this walk this narrow journey and live by rules and do this or do that, or I already thought I was going to hell. Why not have fun while I'm doing it, right? And that's not what God is to me today. It's different. So growing up, I just never really, I would just use it for manipulation and stuff. I took confirmation. I did all these things, but I really never believed. It wasn't that I was atheist. I would think I was more agnostic. I wanted to explore other avenues, but I just didn't see how God could forgive me for the way I thought and the way I felt about people and things, and the things I did even when I was a kid. There were some horrible things in there, and the things that happened to me. But I'm not going to talk about that today at the podium. I don't think it's the proper place. But so I think I was mad at God. If there, you know, not questioning, if there's a God, I'm pissed off at it. I don't want this thing. So it talks about in 45, and that's what scared me, and you know, not doing this thing, because I've tried every avenue except for passages. I should have tried passages.
Oh my gosh.
I should have gave that a go. I mean, man, because I tried springboard 5 times. I just kicked my feet up, not pay child support, and hey, you know, life was great. Eat some good food, you know, 3 hots and a cot. I'm there. But like passages, boy, you got a balcony, ocean view. I mean, I should have gave that a go before I really got sober. But anyway, so I had all this faith around me and my family. I tried the teen challenge thing. I stayed a week. You can testify to that. And I'm out of here, you know. I want this God thing, you know. And I tried Turning Point, it was too low grade for my high bottom ass. I tried Springboard, and it was Big Book thumping. And it's like going to drug school. You wanna learn about this book, go to Springboard. And I could quote the book, with the best of them, but I was using it for manipulation. I'd come out, quote the book, maybe work 1, 2, 3, do a half-ass fourth, come out and, tell some little bit of embarrassing stuff on fifth that they might think it's right, and then I'm back out there off to the races. Every time I would stop on 9. And it wasn't the fear of me owning my stuff, it's the fear of going through the emotion and seeing those people that I hurt.
Yeah.
And telling them what I really, really did to them. Or me just going through the emotion. Because I've been numbing myself for so long. And so I come out and, I can make it 90 days, boy. Ooh, make it 90 days. 91 set in, spirituality set in, and I'm off to the races. And fourth time I came out, it was, because I come from, I like to think I was high bottom or whatever, living fancy life, because I worked for a big wool company, and I got fired, and my identity was kind of locked in with them. So my identity was either wrapped up in one or a job or this or that. And when they let me go, that was really, I thought it was rock bottom because I was living, but that wasn't rock bottom. And that's when the first time I went in Springwood, but it was, I go from making all this money and being pretty high up there to being homeless in a matter of 6 months. That's where drug and alcohol took me. Living in an abandoned house, he can attest to that. My cousin coming and bringing me food because I hadn't eaten in 2 weeks. But I got some dope.
Mm-hmm.
I got some alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy thing about this disease. I come out, and this last time made it about 90 days. I finished IOP and I thought, ooh, I need to deserve a little celebration. When it talks about, what is it, Jim the Car Salesman, when suddenly hit. I wasn't working a program, I wasn't doing anything. I was sitting in that chair thinking I could get it by osmosis. And it's not gonna happen. That spiritual experience and my experience with it, it's not this burning bush thing. I had a bunch of light bulb moments, but it's not this, and that's what I wanted. God to bring down a miracle, this 911 prayer. Just, if you do this, I won't, if you just relieve the obsession to drink and use, I'll stop. Right? No, I gotta put some action behind it. And that last time I came out, good old Emily learned some Al-Anon. And we were dating at the time, we weren't even engaged or anything. And I guess I came up missing for a couple of days. I'm a blackout drinker. And I woke up in a field like 3 days later. I was drinking at Sober Living. And I came out and it was blood. I had an ulcer, bleeding internally. My eyes were yellow, my liver was shut down. Only a couple of days of drinking. Where you pick up, I picked up right where I left off, even health-wise. I think that was a God thing. And my feet were swollen. I was in a field, mosquitoes all around me. It wasn't the situation that was rock bottom. It was what I felt internally.
Mm-hmm.
That empty shell that I would rather put a bullet in my head than look at myself in the mirror because I was so disgusted. I had plenty of love around me. I had plenty of support around me. And plenty of hope. And I think that's when I heard God for the first time in my life. I was walking because I gave away everything. I didn't lose nothing. I gave it away. I didn't have a vehicle. And so I'm hoofing it. And I think about driving, jumping head first over this overpass and just standing in awe. It's miserable. It's miserable. And I said, well, my luck, I'll just be a vegetable, and Emily will have to wipe my ass for the rest of my life. So that's not fair to her. Now, if I do end it, that I ought to give my mom and my kids and her a shot that they don't have to bury me. let's really give this thing a shot. And she wasn't gonna come get me. I called her, no, please come get me, please come get me. She wouldn't come get me. Withdrawal was on me, and it was about 4 in the morning. And I took off walking, and went by the sober house. Nate gave me some water. He told me to promise not to tell her, because she was gonna kill him. She had threatened everybody. She wanted me to go ask for help. She was done with people enabling me, even giving me food's enabling me. The bad of an addict and alcoholic that I am, you give me anything, that's enabling me. Attention, love, I'll take it and run with it. And she wouldn't come get me. She was in San Angelo. She lived in San Angelo. And I was like, and my mom was begging her, and she told my mom that you have to face the fact either your son goes and gets help or he might die today. That was a hard thing for her to deal with. And so I walked and asked for help. I remember walking and passing the overpass, and God saying, it's like this whisper, it's this thought. I mean, it was like, why don't you actually try this? Actually do it. You know, go to any lengths this time. Mm-hmm. So I have plenty of hope. Leslie's giving me hope. Nate, Cole, I knew their story. I knew how bad they were. Nate's Nate's bad. If Nate can get sober and live happy, joyous, and free, why can't I, right? I mean, he really gave me hope. And I asked for help. And I hated being in there. I figured, I'm gonna detox, I'm gonna get out, and everything's gonna be grand, right? Nah. I remember one of the counselors pulled me in there, and she wanted to choke me. And she goes, there's a career in recovery, but it's not as a client. That makes you feel low. All the money I've wasted, and it's because it's not what I do in there. That's why I figured when I get out, get the job back, everybody's praising, oh, congratulations, I'm here. No. And so I had to stay the 30 days. And I hated every minute of it. What are they going to teach me? Triggers this, that, and the other. Which all that stuff in early recovery, if you're coming out for the first time, and playing the tape through helps you not drink until you get through with the step work. Awesome, use it. But this book tells me to take it with the desperation of a ground man. Mm-hmm. When I get out, I better hit this thing running. And it won't let me go back to Midland sober living. I used up everything. I used my punch ticket on that one. And so they're talking about this 18-month like prison style rehab. I'm like, y'all just trying to keep me sober for 18 months. So I get to Kerrville. I did not want to go there. And it was a blessing in disguise. I go to Kerrville. I remember the second day. I was telling a guy at H&I the other day that you have to get through the uncomfortable spots. That's going to test you. Where to get through with work. It's not that temptation and fear and all them things aren't going to show up. They will. It's just get through with it and use a lot of fire under your ass to get through with work. Mm-hmm. It's not that I don't work it thorough. I do. I mean, my sponsor at the time sacrificed a lot of time with me. We read the book from the front page to the prefaces to everything to get through with the work. He spent a lot of time with me and devoted. I mean, that's something I have to pay back daily. But my roommate at the time, I was 2 days out there in Kerrville. My second day, my roommate goes off, gets us some kind of government check or something, goes out drinking. And his whole closet is full of them little bottles of vodka. I'm like, oh my God. And I wanted it. I ain't lying. I wanted to drink it. I poured it out. But the whole time I'm like, oh my God. But I had to get through with those things. And that lit a fire because the first sponsor I found down there was talking about like a step a month that we're really gonna work that. And I'm like, man, is this NA? I'm not dogging it.
Is this NA?
So I get out. I finally found a sponsor, and he's like, I'm gonna meet with you, but don't, if you got time to mess with this, I ain't the guy for you if you're not ready. And I thank God, I told him, I was like, man, that's a time that God spoke in my ear and stuff. I think that was really my rock bottom. See, my rock bottom's internally. It has nothing to do, I've lost a car, I've lost a house, house got foreclosed on. I tried to live into it till the bank was showing up, and I had to, you know, run and dud. It's not even losing a relationship. Book talks about frothy emotional pill selling suffices. How's my wife gonna keep me sober? How's my kids gonna keep me? They can't. I love my kids. I've been them for 3 years. Didn't see them. Wasn't a father to them. I mean, they could not keep me. No human power keep me sober. And I started working the steps and fell in love with the book. Actually was trying to live out the book instead of just quoting it, so I could be cute to some girl in here, so everybody would think I was doing well, when I was really dying on the inside. I was miserable. And I got out and, alright, so I started working the steps. 11 days I was making amends. We're talking about 4 or 5 hours a night working the steps every night. This guy didn't have the time to mess with me, but he was willing to do it, because I was willing to go to any lengths. In the front of my book, he made me write, I'm willing to go to any lengths, sign my name, put my sobriety date. And it, you know, that was a blessing. I didn't want to leave Kerrville. I was 4 months in and I had to leave. I didn't want to leave. I was over there. 60 days in, I was sponsoring people, you know, and they're like, I was chairing meetings, stayed active. I just couldn't afford to live there anymore. God was moving me to somewhere else, come to San Angelo. And I didn't really want to be there, but Emily was there, and I just like, you know, God's gonna move you wherever you are, you know, where you need to be. And I love San Angelo. I'm gonna leave there now. I couldn't imagine coming back to Midland. I love this place. I miss all y'all, but I mean, San Angelo, for me, that's where it's at right now. It's, you know, making that first amends. I'll talk about my spiritual experience. Those amends I avoided all my life. I didn't want to make the amends. And my sponsor reminded me, remember, you're willing to go to any lengths. Emily really helped push me in that aspect too, is you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And, because she had seen it work, you know, Nate and everybody in here, Leslie, Cole. And I didn't, man, it was amends to my first wife, the mother of my kids, it was amends I didn't want to make. Because she was going to make me do something I didn't want to do. I knew she was. And I made it. I had to make it over FaceTime. She wouldn't meet me in person. She heard me out, and she said, well, she gave me the deal that I had to do, because what do I do to make this right? And she still hadn't made me do it, thank God. It's changed. Our relationship changed. It's growing. I still haven't seen my kids. And I'm letting God work that out, and I need to take some action behind it, but it's getting there. I mean, the book talks about the promises. It doesn't promise that you're gonna get the job back, you're gonna get the woman back, and you get your kids back. All it does is it promises you're gonna be happy, joyous, and free, and rely on God, basically. That's what I do today. But I had that spiritual experience. I had never felt the presence of God before. And you talk about, you know, drugs and alcohol giving you that little great spiritual experience, but in all reality, there's not a feeling that drugs and alcohol could ever replace. Yeah. And it gives me chills thinking about it. The light in the room was a little bit different. My roommate was like, what the hell are you doing? Y'all need to come down here and drug test us. But, you know, I finally actually started doing the work instead of just talking about it. I'm trying to sell myself. I don't try to sell myself today. And it talks about on page 56. I'll read it. It's my favorite part. But the book, one of them, where it talks about this minister's son that's an atheist, and he finally finds God that night. It hit me all of a sudden. I had a lot of light bulb moments leading up to this spiritual experience, though. Was just little things somebody would say or something, and I'd be like, you know, man, you know, it just, you know, that resonates. God talks through people. We're not going to hear this, you know, like Moses did on the mountain, get the 10 commandments and all these golden tablets and stuff. It's going to be You're gonna hear it through other people, and you're gonna feel the presence and stuff, but he talks about this. This atheist, it says, if there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me, but later alone in his room, he'd asked himself this question: is it possible that all religious people I have known are wrong? While pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then like a thunderbolt, a great thought came and crowded out all else. Who are you to say there is no God? This man recounts that he tumbled out of bed to his knees. In a few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. It poured over him and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood. The barriers he had built through the years were swept away. He stood in the presence of infinite power and love. He had stepped from bridge to shore. For the first time, he lived in conscious companionship with his Creator. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. No later vicissitude had shaken it. His alcoholic problem was taken away that very night long ago. It disappeared, save for a few brief moments of temptation. The thought of drink has never returned, and at such times a great revolution has risen up in him. Seemingly, he could not drink even if he would. God had restored his sanity. That was me. That night, I made that amends. I still wanted to drink. I ain't gonna lie. I was crying. She was leaving. She was in town. She was going back. I prayed with her. First time I prayed with somebody other than my sponsor. And I said, I just wanted God to take this drink problem away that night. And I woke up that next morning after making that amends. And the obsession wasn't there. Because I knew the next day something had to give or I was going to drink. I couldn't work the steps fast enough. And he did it. And it was, I was just asking him, just let me get through with the work. I promise I'll be of service to you. I promise I'll carry this message. And he did it. And the drink problem was taken away. I moved to San Angelo and, got involved. And I do H&Is. Every other week I do an H&I. I do a chair meeting at a Christian sober house on Sundays, and then Wednesdays I chair a newcomers meeting at our San Angelo Solutions group. I mean, God has really, it's not the material things I've gotten back, which, that's a bonus, I ain't gonna lie. It's that internal peace and serenity, being happy, joyous, and free. All I wanted God to do was remove the problem, the obsession to drink and use drugs. And he's done so much more, so much more. Talks about on 45, my sponsor was talking about it the other day. He was talking about if God can remove your drink problem, why can't he, make you happy, joyous, and free? Because if you're taking care of the causes and conditions, the fear, the feeling of uselessness, all those internal conditions, you will be happy, joyous, and free. It's a miracle of this thing. I don't have to pick up a drink or a drug. Now let me talk about what happened after a year, because I come up here after a year sober, and spoke, and I was on fire. And then I stayed stagnant. It was probably from a year and a half to 2 years sober. The unmanageability was on my ass. Why? Because I rested on my wheels. I was sponsoring guys. I was doing all the things I just talked to y'all about. I was being of service, but I was feeding my ego. And I quit living on my own spiritual experiences. I started living on my sponsee's spiritual experiences. My sponsees weren't really having that many spiritual experiences. I had more failures than success. And I was egotistical. The book talks about what a price has to be paid, right? The leveling of pride and ego. My ego got the best of me. I got the job back, got the career back. And that was a total God thing. I got that job. That wasn't me. I didn't apply for that job. And I thought, well, I'm an old man. All this other stuff, like professional oil field up here. I'm just a drunk that got lucky, right, or blessed. And all that was feeding my ego. Look how many guys I sponsored feeding my ego in the program. Like I'm the super drunk over here. And I just started getting batshit crazy. I called Cole. Cole probably got because he works for a wool company, and I would vent to him, and he still probably gets it sometimes from me. This son of a bitch is crazy. But I think a group of us was kind of going through the same thing. 2 years, only, I was 2 years sober, and Tom B talks about it in Emotional Sobriety. It's a speaker tape. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend that one. And he talks about the terrible twos. I was like a fat toddler. I had the body shape of a fat toddler and everything, but I didn't shit my pants this time. I wasn't wearing a diaper. But I thought I knew everything, and subconsciously I did all these things. I wasn't given the credit. I tell everybody, oh, the credit goes to God, the credit. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, I did the work. I was going crazy. The unmanageability was back. Talks about the bedevilments, feeling of uselessness, the depression. I was miserable again. And Emily got the brunt of it. She was probably about to leave mine. And you take, step one's a two-part thing. It's twofold, that's why that hyphen's in there. Powerless over alcohol, my life's unmanageable. Once you get sober, forgiveness and all that, you've had a spiritual experience, and my experience is the unmanageable. If I don't do this thing, and I don't do it like I'm supposed to do it, be spiritual about it, expect nothing in return, and not feed my ego and all these other things, then the unmanageability will come back in. What's soon to follow? That powerlessness. Because what's drugs and alcohol, to me, it's a solution. Though it's temporary, and it causes pain and devastation and all these things, it's the quickest, easiest solution. I know how to calm this down. Everything inside. And luckily I didn't want to drink. Luckily Nate, like, hey, we're gonna get together and do, kind of this thing where we hold each other accountable. We go back to the book and kind of hardcore, more thorough. And I said, yeah, I need to do something different. And that first time, I was, God, I remember, I won't put you on blast. I remember Nate saying, I don't know how I'm not drunk right now. Because we looked at the circle triangle, our unity, recovery, and service. Boy, I thought I don't know. Because I'm working 80 hours a week, I'm doing these meetings, and I'm sponsoring these guys and stuff like that. But my family life is unmanageable. She's sitting at home alone. I'm not paying attention to any of my family life. It talks about in the book, sole vocation of this work, if a man can do it, our hats off to him. I can. It's not that I don't try, or I don't do what I can. But if I'm neglecting something at home, something's gonna give. And that's what I was doing. And I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it for my reputation. Nate tells me this. Reputation is what people think of you. Your character is what people think of you. And my character and reputation was shit. I mean, I look like an asshole. And, sorry, I cuss on occasion. I'm trying to work on it. But, I was we started going through it, and that circle and triangle revealed a lot. I was off. I wasn't really attending meetings unless I was chairing them or doing something for AA to make myself the center. I became the actor again. Talks about that. I wanted everybody to see this thing. I was wearing a mask yet again. And, that, Nate mentioned it, and us getting together has changed my life. I'm still not perfect about it. I mean, we're not. I'm spending more time with my family. Me and Emily have gotten along way better than we have. I'm truly grateful for that. It's a God thing. Work slowed down. I'm still busy, but I'm not working as many hours. I mean, God keeps showing up, and as long as I get out of the way and keep myself humble, it's like, this is just stuff I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to pray and give everything to God. I'm supposed to be a good husband. I'm supposed to provide for my kids. I'm supposed to be a good friend. I'm supposed to carry this message. Not only this message, but the message of what God's done for me. And he gets the credit that I don't get the credit. I had no hand in any of this. There's no way I should have got that job. There's no way I should be sober right now. I should be dead. And it's, you know, it's crazy. Just, you know, that Nate would have thought of me to do that. And we really weren't in that much contact at the time. We had moved out and, you know, and Cole going through the same thing that we were going through. We were all at that stage. Now it's, I mean, like I harp on this and I harp on this. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was get sober. That's it. That's great. I have, you know, my mom says, I don't worry about you. Emily's got beer in the fridge at home. I'm the guy that couldn't stop drinking. She doesn't drink, but, all right, she bought pickle beer on Super Bowl. This is crazy to me. Because it talks about in the book, it talks about we think our life is only a normal one, you know, our crazy lives, the alcoholic life is the normal one. What's crazy to me is she bought this pickle beer, 6-pack, on Super Bowl Sunday, and there's still, you know how long ago the Super Bowl was? She only drank one, there's still 5 in there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'd have drank those on the way home and stopped and tried to break in the liquor store. I mean, it's crazy. But my mom, she was saying that though, she moved from Phoenix and there's some promises that have really, God's really shown up. My mom that didn't trust me, had nothing to do with me. It's not that she didn't love me, she just, you know, I played the victim so much and burned my bridges. It's just that she had to turn her back on me to, you know, so that she didn't see me kill myself. But we moved her and my stepdad down. They live in San Angelo now. And that's awesome. We get to help them out and, you know, be around them and be around family. I mean, that's what the promises are about. You know, you take care of everything else and everything's good. My cousin knows it. Oh, one of my cousins used to call me Circle Kenny. My mom said that the other day. She went, "Who used to call you Circle Kenny?" And because I would do the same thing. I would make the same promises. You know, whacked out of my mind. And she said, now you just 180. And that meant a lot. You know, the feelings, the internal condition is you know, we talk about the blessings and the promises. The job and everything, that's great. And all the outside circumstances, that stuff is just a bonus. But there's a verse in the big book talks about be still and know I'm God. And that's my favorite verse. Today I can just give it to God, not worry about it. That's what it means. It means not to worry, just let God run the show. And today I can do that. Today I can sit in a room in perfect peace and quietness alone and just sit there and meditate and just be happy. I still have my flaws. I still want to come home. Why didn't you do the dishes and all that stuff? I got to check myself. As long as I recognize it and do all my inventory, I'm good. I quit sponsoring myself. I got a new sponsor. And I got to turn in my nightly inventories every night. And he corrects me and gives me advice, and I'm grateful for that. I need that. I need accountability. I need structure. Because you know when you're out there running a gun, you ain't got all those things. And all I did was did what the book told me to do and took some suggestions from all you drunks. It changed my life. See, I needed the back door thing to God. AA is a back door thing. I don't need that in your face trying to shove it down your throat. Now I have to reel it back because I want to shove God down people's throat. Look what God did for me. If you just do this stupid, it'll work out. Doesn't work like that. I gotta be, you know. But the greatest thing, you know, that AA has given me back is, you know, the relationships. Relationship with my wife, relationship with my mom, my family, being trusted and dependent again. Being dependable is awesome. I don't have to, well, I was here tonight, or Emily, I don't have to take my debit card and all that stuff. I mean, that's awesome. But I think the biggest blessing is my relationship with God today. I'm not perfect with that. But every day is a day we must grow with him. And that was the problem. At that 2-year mark, I quit growing. I stayed stagnant. Talks about that. I'll quote the Bible again, Matthew 25:29. Economists and politicians refer to this as the Matthew principle. Talks about to those who have much, more will be given, and those who have little, more will be taken away. And people are like, capitalism at its finest. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's not what it means. That means people that stay stagnant or don't have a relationship with God, they're going to get worse. And the people that work at it and take some action behind it and already have the love of God in their hearts, they'll get more. I'll end with that. There is a favorite quote of mine when I was talking about meeting God, hearing him whisper in my ear that day. My buddy Gabe in San Angelo always says this. He says, rock bottom can be a beautiful place, but that's got to be your perception on it. That's where I found God, right? And it is a beautiful place. Carl Jung, which is a big contributor to AA, and one of my favorite quotes is, modern man can't see God because they don't look low enough. Teaches me to be humble always, and to help the newcomer, no matter what they look like or how they act or anything. So we, at our group, right before, at the end of the meeting, we read the responsibility statement. You know, and that kind of keeps fresh in our minds that I wanted the hand of AA to be there for me, so I got to reach it back out. That's all I got. Thank y'all for letting me come here.
Thank you.
Good job.
That was good.
Oh, perfect timing too. I feel like we always go over. Okay, so now we're gonna pass the basket because we're self-supporting for our own contributions. Where is the basket?
It's up there. Okay, I got it, I think. Who wants to do